Good evening. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. This is the first City Council meeting of the new administration, so I'm going to take the liberty of doing a couple of introductions of our members, which, interestingly enough, are the only people other than the president in the room. I am the chair. Don Landers is the vice chair. We have Dave Doucette, Sean Navin, and Laura Wagner. So thank you all. We have our first item is order number 20-100-7915, a proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650, Section 17 and 18 relative to livestock farms. Everyone should have a copy of the solicitor's proposed language with the specificity in it. The solicitor is here, the commissioner is also here, and we can begin discussion. I don't know if anybody has questions, comments. I don't know how much detail this has been read. We had a public hearing. The Planning Board had a public hearing last night. The Planning Board has tabled this until they can get some further information from the Board of Health. So we really cannot do anything final until we have the Planning Board's recommendation, which hopefully would be forthcoming at the next meeting. Councilor Landers.
I didn't make the Planning Board meeting. What was their concern until they hear from the Board of Health?
They had multiple concerns with things that are understandable. Having someone with a chicken in the backyard could cause coyotes to come. And is that an issue for someone who might have a small dog that's next door? They raised issues with should we put a limit on the size of the yard where chickens could be allowed? I think they had not gotten the copy of the regulations, which I had thought that they had them, so they didn't have the opportunity to read them. So I think between reading them and hopefully the Board of Health, somebody from the Board of Health would be able to come to their next meeting.
Yeah. See, I myself, Councilor, I think the number of chickens, I think, is a concern of mine, and also whether we should require a certain defined structure. You know, I think it's pretty to see these hens or chickens on a free range, but that's where you get in trouble with dogs chasing them, coyotes coming in, skunks, raccoons, anything that can take on a chick.
And I did not have the regulations with me last night when that was asked by the Board of Health, but if you do look at the regulations in Section B on page 2, it talks about the application to keep a farm animal, and chickens are listed as farm animals. If we approve the code to allow the chickens to the extent that this would allow them, each person would then be required to go to the Board of Health and fill out a permit application, and part of that would be a plot plan, a building plan, and a statement of how and where the animals are to be kept. So I think that will probably help answer the Planning Board's concerns and maybe other people's concerns. My understanding is they would not be allowed to be free range, that they would need a structure.
Right, and I think that would solve some of my concerns too.
Although I think, from what I understand, people do like to let them out. They are good tick eaters.
Yeah.
So if you have a yard that is in an area where there's a lot of ticks, the chickens can certainly help solve some of that, but you would then put them back into their pen, one would assume.
Yeah, it's very easy to get them back in. It's like all creatures, you give them a food trail, and they'll go in at night or when the sun starts to set or something. But you do have to think of some of the other causes, other problems it can create, and coyotes and other wild animals after them is a concern.
I saw another hand. Councilor Wagner?
I'd just like to point out that I know chickens have been, this is part of you know, defining the regulations, but we've had chickens in Marlborough for some time now, and I've known people that have had chickens, so, I mean, some of this, it seems like it's beyond the scope of our work to predict all the what-ifs, and I felt satisfied by the Section E that talks about revocation, so then there's a remedy in the event that there is some kind of a nuisance situation, chronic nuisance, it says, or conditions where the permit or license have been violated, or they said the Board of Health has the right to suspend the permit whenever it's necessary to protect public health or safety. So there's a mechanism in place to address situations that come up, but there's no way we can predict all the what-ifs. And the fact that there's been chickens for quite some time in Marlborough without these things coming, you know, really even being brought to our attention, that satisfies me that this shouldn't create new problems.
Councilor Doucette, did you have a question or comment?
Well, I just want to make sure that it's clear, basically, from the regulations as well as what we pass within the council to be, so that if someone wants to do a chicken, you know, wants to get chickens, get involved with chickens, that they know what to do, and it's clear as far as what the regulations are. I think that's part of what this process hopefully will get clarified. So.
That's certainly my goal. I know that the code enforcement is aware of multiple families with chickens. They are sort of leaving them alone, as far as I know. I think they would then be making sure that those people were notified that they are within the zoning and meet the zoning, and then second of all, that they now need to follow with the Board of Health regulations. So I think for a while it will be a learning curve for everybody. And as we first pass the zoning to make them legal for where they are considered illegal now, and then make sure that people do understand. I was amazed that the Board of Health regulations were written in 2005. I had no idea that they even existed covering chickens. So, Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I think your ordinance captures what you're looking for, which is specify the zones where chickens can be, or live chickens can be maintained, and then setting the parameters for how many and excluding roosters. I mean, I think that's primarily what the ordinance addresses. What I call the Board of Health aspect of it is the, you know, what size coop, how it's cleaned, all that. We should stay out of that business. Let the Board of Health, they can change and address theirs based on feedback from residents or other folks, but, you know, get back to what is it that we're trying to do here. It's set up an ordinance that says where can we have them and how many can they have, all right? And that's what because right now you can't have them anywhere, you know, unless you got a farm. So, you know, this is kind of, you know, you get back to if it's not written in the ordinance, it's not allowed. So now we're trying to, you know, put some framework around it. So the question is urban affairs, you should be looking at, do the zones look we'd expect to have them? Is the numbers appropriate that you think you have? You know, 6 or 12, you want 200, 300? I hope not, but you know, that's what you're because remember, these are for individuals that have eggs for their personal use, right? They're not supposed to be doing it from a farm standpoint to be selling them on the open market with a herd of chickens. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any further?
I think they hit it right, Councilor Wagner and the President hit it right on the nose. What is our responsibility, the ours, Urban Committee, and then let the Board of Health control it just the way they really do with dogs. You know, we don't have too many hassles with dogs. You know, they have to be registered. They have to get their rabies shot. We have a leash law in Marlborough. You know, so, you know, that board, we don't control dogs. We don't want to control the chickens, just whose responsibility that is. And I think we're all set then, Mr. President and Councilor Wagner.
All right, so the zoning change is pretty simple. It changes section 18 of chapter 650 to add in the words livestock farm. So it would read livestock farms, the raising of or keeping of a small flock of poultry, in parentheses, other than chicken hens, end parentheses, less than 10, or of saddle horses, private kennel, livestock, or other farm animals for use only by residents of the premises, provided further that adequate open space is available for their care. And it inserts the following new paragraph, number 49, chicken hens personal use, the raising or keeping of female chickens, Gallus domesticus, for personal use, not to exceed either 6 hens or 12 hens as stated in the table of uses. The raising or keeping of roosters, cocks, or cockerels is prohibited. The slaughtering of chicken hens for non-personal use is prohibited. And we will then add into section 17 of chapter 650, table of uses, where they will go. 6 or fewer will be allowed in rural residential, A1, A2, A3, residential business, and residential commercial. And chicken hens between 7 and 12 will be allowed in rural residential, A1, A2, and A3. Is everybody comfortable with us approving this pending the recommendation of the Board of Health? Do we want to table this until we know for sure what they're doing? Postpone, thank you. It's just, even I. I would report this out at our next meeting. It would lay on the table anyway. The Board of Health would hopefully have a recommendation that then could go along with it. But I'm open to what people want to do. Councillor Doucette.
I would be interested in entertaining a promotion to postpone, because I know that that requires an immediate vote, so I'm not going to do it yet. But I think I'd rather wait to hear what the Board of Health is saying before we actually do a final decision.
So is that a formal motion?
It's not a formal motion, I'm just starting a conversation.
Hey, I'd like to continue that conversation, though. I'm not sure what they could come up with that would change what Councilor Walker and the President mentioned, that we just want to get involved with our part of this, you know? It's the areas that's permitted in the number, and then let the, you know, that's our part, we vote that, let it lay on the table, and then see what the Board of Health comes up. If they come up with some way out things, something, we'll just won't vote for it. I don't know, I'd like to just, you know, move on it. That's all I have to say.
All right, so somebody's got to make a motion. Either we postpone or we move to do something. Councillor Hossing.
Okay, so just for information, so the planning board said that they wanted to hear from the Board of Health. They'll meet again on March 23rd, so they will render their decision on March 23rd. The planning board is pretty efficient. They don't, you know, fool around if they have the information they want. So you'll get the information from them, you know, that night if we're there, or they'll render their thing in writing so that we'll have it the next day. So, you know, if you wanted to approve it and then just report it out, and then you can postpone then at that meeting to whatever you want, you know, based on, because you'll know, if you approve it tonight through committee, it'll show up on our agenda on the 23rd. You can then, you'll know on the 23rd what the planning board said, and then you can, you know, report it, you'll report it out anyway. The earliest you should vote on this is April 6th, right? I mean, that's, and at that time, you'll know what the planning board has said. So if you like it, support it. If you don't like it and you want to hear from the planning board, make the motion.
Thank you for
I'll
making
let you
that
guys make your motions.
very clear. So, Councillor Landers.
So I will make the motion if,
All right.
if you so desired, to move that we approve the zoning amendment.
All right, it has been moved and seconded to approve the zoning amendment as read. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is 5-0, and it is approved pending the outcome, pending the recommendation of the planning board. There is no other business before us. Is there
Motion
a
to adjourn?
motion to, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And it's 5-0. We are adjourned at 8:16. Thank you.